Hey, you look so casual. You look like the Don. You're back there going, "Come on, go ahead, ask me a question."
That's fire away. Yeah,
Yeah, fire away.
fire away.
George Stavaris, so nice to have you here.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Scott.
Yeah, of course. So, how many years has it been? Hasn't it been? It's got to be like 15 years. It's got to be a lot of years.
Yes, I would think with the Provisors group and us meeting each other professionally,
Hmm.
we're probably pushing 15 years. Yeah,
I think you only had two kids back then. Now you have five, right?
I have five. Yeah, I'm a busy man, but life is
You're a
good.
busy man.
Yeah,
What was
yeah.
great was earlier you were commenting on how yes, it's chaotic, but you wouldn't change it for the world.
No, doing this at later in life, you kind of realize, what you're doing and where you are going to make your biggest impact is on your family and your
Yep.
family tree. And rather than work, 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 and look at me, I want to give it back to my kids, and I'm at a point in my life where I want to be able to build up the next generation. So
I love
having
it.
kids and having more kids, I'm okay with it. It's all good, no
Beautiful.
complaints. Yeah,
Well, we always say in our family, it's work hard, play hard, pray hard.
that's
So
it.
it's about
Amen.
finding that balance, and it's a lot easier to go to work when you know why you're going to work.
Right, right.
And so, beautiful. So, George, the thing that's always gotten me about you is interesting because I meet a lot of commercial people, a lot of residential people, but when it comes to commercial industrial, I don't know anyone that knows the valley like you. And that was one of the things that appealed to me right from the start. If someone says, "Yeah, I'm looking for an industrial," da da da, I don't even think about the other guys. I just think about
Thank you,
George Stavaris,
thank you, thank you.
who I remember once someone said something to the effect when we were in the group. Hey, you know that building on such and such street, such and such? Oh yeah, you mentioned the owner's name and you had the history, and we were talking about selling. And I'm going, that's how does anyone do that? There's just
I guess it goes back to having, wasn't born in the San Fernando Valley, but I grew up, my parents were two when we moved to, Northridge, I guess is what you would call it now.
uh
And
huh,
I have stayed in the valley my entire life. And here we are,
uh huh,
54 years, so 52 years in the San Fernando Valley, pretty much looking at the same intersections my entire life.
uh huh.
So, growing up in the valley, really being a valley guy, and then my
Hmm.
business based in the valley, and then my history even within kind of city government. I always tell people when I first started, look, I'm going to be in this market. I'm going to know you, whether you want to know me or not. I'm going to know this market,
Uh
and
huh.
that's how it's kind of evolved. 7 years on the planning commission for the city of Los Angeles. So you
Oh,
kind of
that's awesome.
that's right. So at some point you got to know. I got to know every intersection and what happens in every intersection, and it's just some people are like history geeks, and I'm a San Fernando Valley geek. So I name the intersection. I should tell you who's on all four corners. At least the businesses, right?
I love it. I was just very, very impressed to know that you knew what you knew, and that you could identify those streets and stuff. It's just yes, it's very impressive. You're definitely my go-to guy when it comes to
Thank you,
industrial in
thank
the
you.
San Fernando
Yeah,
Valley.
thank you,
Yeah,
Scott.
absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to tell us about your business and what makes you tick? What makes you excited about it?
You know, my the funny thing is that I would say to people what I like to do and see, kind of driving the streets, driving the freeways, coming in and out of the San Fernando Valley. If I see a truck of a company that I've done business with, and oh yeah, that's my oh that's my client, or that guy is over.
Hmm.
I find enjoyment of seeing others succeed, prosper, grow, and physically seeing their trucks, because that's kind of what I do, the industrial world, on the road just makes me feel
Hmm.
happy. I like that stuff. And I
That's
like
awesome.
it, kids, everyone used to take things apart and see how things were built or how things move. That's my world. So I just like it. I like it. You got to do what you
That's
love.
great.
This is it.
Great.
Yeah.
And then you know
Yeah.
why you're working so hard too. You work your ass off so you can get home with the wife and kids.
That's right.
Beautiful.
And have a good life. so it's okay.
Awesome, awesome. So I'm sure within the commercial industrial space, you come across some craziness sometimes, some not so, not the real estate heaven, but the real estate hell. So tell us a story or two about what you've been through, or you know.
Well, right. I would tell you of lately, and gosh, you could break it down to nowadays almost by the hour. The real estate hell has been kind of the paradigm shift in Los Angeles, in California, of what we're doing to businesses. And what that's kind of really hard to say, but let's kind of break it down to the San Fernando Valley. The
Mm-hmm.
San Fernando Valley was really kind of born around the World War II war machine, right? Where I'm sitting now used to be one of the old Lockheed Martin manufacturing facilities. They actually built the U-2 spy plane where I'm sitting, right?
Uh-huh.
So, once that left and all the subcontractors, left, which was probably up until the early 90s, the San Fernando Valley was the war machine. This is where all the military and defense know-how, spending, manufacturing was happening.
Mm-hmm.
They left, and really what kind of seemed to have bubbled up at the time, and while maybe another Valley guy like Scott knows, was the adult industry. And the
Mm-hmm.
adult industry, and we used to say that Chatsworth is the porn capital of the world. And as bad as that sounds, and some people can have moral issues with it, their industrial machine,
Mm-hmm.
the printing of the video cartridges, the duplicating of the video cartridges, the
Mm-hmm.
distribution of it was huge, right? And it was all coming out of the San Fernando Valley, and it was a very big industry. That changed and then went to streaming, right?
Mm-hmm.
Netflix, Disney, Hulu, content. We want to get as many stages up as possible, and all of the behind the camera work happened really in the San Fernando Valley. So all my world is the lighting guy, the rag guy, the stage creator, um,
Mm-hmm.
and just after these writer strikes, the actor strike, the pushing of these industries to find another way, we've lost them. And we're now in a point here in the San Fernando Valley where you kind of look at and you talk to the other industrial brokers is what industry is going to perk up
That's what I was just going to ask.
and bail us out. And that's the multi-million dollar question. I don't know it right now. And it's not good for me to say that, but I can't see it. And I
Uh-huh.
don't know what it's going to be. And that's our fear. And we're living in that today. And that's scary times. We have that. Then, we have, and you deal with this too, the mansion tax. Well, an
Mm-hmm.
industrial building, for the most part, is over $5 million. That's kind of an
Pretty
average
much.
building for us. Yeah. So it's not, yes, it does sound like it's a lot of money, but not for an industrial building when there's not that many of those. And that has all but dried up. All but dried up. Very, very, very few sale transactions happen. And when they do, they're forced to happen.
So that's what I
So
was actually going to ask you, because what kind of deals are happening since you have so few people buying
well,
into it? And who is buying?
right now,
I thought for
so
a while there that we were talking about. I remember you mentioning the entertainment industry, maybe trying to find some space to do that in the valley, and you would also talk about the cannabis industry. But that was years ago. You and I talked about
right,
that.
right. Cannabis has come and gone. They had their run as well, and that again turns out to just kind of too expensive to do what they do in these buildings out here, and they should go everywhere else. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the entertainment world became what was our um, aerospace, right?
Uh-huh.
So there were that many of those guys, big and small, within the San Fernando Valley, and they started creeping out into Chatsworth. They even creeped up into Santa Clarita. and they went
Right.
everywhere. And that was just because, again, content. You had the major studios that were kind of at one time kind of controlled everything, and then as here we are today doing, you're now you're producing your own shows, and Scott Nell, who has a knack and looks good on camera, he could do it himself,
Oh,
and you don't have to have someone else do it. You could do it yourself. So
and the market is okay with it. It's almost, if it's
exactly,
too
exactly,
slick, the
right,
market doesn't want it. The market wants, from what I found, wants me to just freaking talk to George
right,
about
and just
what
be
he's
yourself,
gone through in real estate. That's what,
right,
as opposed to getting all
right.
stuffy, having everything all produced beautifully and all that.
Right. Well, and look, I think you and I and most, rather than kind of watching a sitcom show today, I'll go onto YouTube and surf the web and find something funky to watch just because it's random and it's different.
Right.
So that has translated it into not having to be here. And
Mm-hmm.
again, when you go and you're pushing on these businesses, whether it be the labor rates, the tax rates, you know, air quality. There's all kinds of things that are involved in what we do. What
Mm-hmm.
cutting stone, right, and marble fabrication, stone fabrication is totally different than filming a studio, right, or filming something. But all those guys live in that industrial world, and each one has to go into their silos.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want the stone guy there, and I get it. You don't want to that. You certainly don't want to breathe that that dust. They
Mm-hmm.
need to exist. They exist in certain areas, and they're pushed into little corners. We are, one of the things that I've told a few of my clients, I mean, as recent as today, it isn't the price. We could be the lowest guy in the market today. We just don't have a tenant. There's no one back there. There is no, hey, two, three, four guys that are waiting to take your space. I mean, just as things are changing so fast, through COVID and during COVID, industrial was the darling, right? They want, just in time, how they had the delivery, got to right size it, have it here, onshoring, whatever the words were, whatever the keywords, you would list a property and immediately it would get leased. And not only would it get leased, you'd have multiple offers, right?
Right.
As fast as that kind of went up, which kind of goes up a little fast, it did comparatively, but it dropped. I mean, like 2008, just shut off. I mean, the spigot has been turned off.
So George, what
So,
are you doing then? I mean, how do you make a living? Now I'm going to answer that a little bit myself because you've been doing it so long.
right.
That there's slim pickings, but a lot of them come to you. Because in my industry, people say, "Oh, I'm hearing this, this, and this, and this." But fortunately, I've been in the business for 20 years,
Right.
so I do have a lot of stuff coming. Even though that if I was starting out right now, I don't know how I would survive.
Yeah.
But
No,
because I'm established, I still have a good market share. So what
yes.
do you do? What are you doing to make it to
the
take the money home
the
for your family?
exact same thing as you're saying. It is 25 years I've been doing this. You've grown with some of these businesses. A lot of them, in some of these cases, are now I'm getting ready to get out and I'm going to retire, and I either want to lease up my building and take the income from that, or I'm going to sell my building and take the income from that.
Mm-hmm.
You can see on the board behind me, that's kind of my, I don't know, hopefully you can't read everything. It's not that it's too proprietary in any way, but those, my listings and the transactions that I'm working on. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, that's 25 years of doing this. Now,
Right.
will all of these make? Not all of them, or they will make, and they're going to take years to come to fruition. How we work on is cycles of years. It's not of
Right.
days or months. We don't. It just doesn't work that way. I meet you today, and if I get a deal done within a year, that's actually pretty fast. More like
Mm-hmm.
2 or 3 is more common, and I could tell you stories that were 20 years in the making. It's just time, 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 time. Am I making the deals that I did during COVID? No. Am I making more than most? Yes. But
Mm-hmm.
that's because I've been doing this for a long time.
Absolutely. And you know
You
your
know,
shit. I mean,
Yes, yeah, yes, and you do get that. You get the, what I went through. Sometimes you like to say is you don't want to be the first guy in the door, right? I want to be the second or third guy because either that buyer, seller, tenant, landlord has been seasoned by, yeah, this guy keeps lying to you. You didn't want to hear what I had to say, but now I can only tell you as I told you so.
right, right,
And then it's okay, George, do what you need to do and get this thing done. I tend to be a little more realistic, if you want to say. You got to leave meat on the bone for the business. The business
mm-hmm.
needs to have a desire to either lease your building, right? Be in
Mm-hmm.
this location, although location is still important for what we do too.
Sure,
But they got to make money. And if the landlord's gonna twist their arm, what we like to say is, I want to twist your arm, but I don't want to break it. I want to take
right,
you to the time where, okay, I got everything that I can from this guy, but if I break his arm, he's gonna walk away. You don't want
exactly. Well, that's what makes you a negotiating expert because you know just how far to twist.
that. And I don't know. Hopefully, that's not a bad thing. I guess it goes both ways. Who doesn't want to get the most for their property? When you're representing the landlord as well, is of course I want to get you the most. But if I go squeeze everything from this guy and then he goes bankrupt, what did I
Right,
get?
right,
And we have that. There is that. We call it midnight moves. We don't get the squatters or the people that will come into an industrial building and not pay their rent. Look, when they're not paying the rent, they want to get out of that building. They don't want to be
mhm,
there. They don't want to be in their business. They want to get the hell out of there. So I get it. You don't want to lease it to a building and force that guy to get to that point. I want him to be happy, her to be happy. I want them to be able to make money. I want you to pay my landlord.
right. It's
What we're
better
seeing
than squeezing
today,
too hard.
that's
That's the
right.
same in residential. I got a deal currently that they wanted to, we were gonna. The comps showed it between 2.1 and 2.2. We ended up putting it at 2.3, and I thought the property was special enough to get that, but we ended up getting to 2.35 with a couple of offers, and then all of a sudden, it's like I really want 2.4, and I'm going like, just wait a minute. And what we want to do is we have to, kind of analyze your risk tolerance here because sometimes people run away, and the seller says, "What risk is there?" And he lays out a good reason why. But I'm going, this is my experience. I'm telling you right now, so many deals are falling apart. And fortunately, I thought we had the 2.4. Oh my gosh, we're so close. I was so close to just proving him right. But then, there's a couple of things that happened. So we had to bob and weave. And it's like, okay, let's go back to this guy right here and, not humble ourselves, but show them that we're going to give you a shot at this. And so it was a weird dance to get them back in when they had already taken off. And so, but it was like if you squeeze too hard, in this
Right,
case, squeezing too hard almost lost us everyone that was on the table.
right.
Thank goodness we had the right one come back.
Well, I have a saying to these, both buyers, and sellers: ability to close trumps price. So in
Ah,
our world, it's not about the highest number. Shoot, I'll get an offer, for $5 million, but he only has $2 million in his pocket, just to use silly numbers. That you got to get through that, and it's not trying to extract every last dot. Do you have the money to do it?
yeah.
And we run into that problem quite a bit. We're working on a few deals now where, and you were asking who are transacting, at JLL, and coming from Trinity Partners as JLL, we do a lot more corporate service type stuff. We're a
Mhm.
Fortune 100 company, 130, I think is where we might be ranked. So you work with a lot of the Fortune 500 companies. Those transactions on the lease side, let's say, are still happening because they need their space. We need, we're doing either, whether it be renewals of existing leases or trying to acquire, additional space. Corporate America still need, we still have 3 million people in the San Fernando Valley, so it still needs to exist. Um, but the those deals are far and few between,
Right,
and again, still goes back to, let's get real with the numbers. So
right.
it's
I always say
been exciting.
we want to go for the highest closable price.
Right.
And in the case I was just telling you about, there was one that was coming in higher, and I knew that the agent and the buyer, because I had a little bit of insight on the buyer, were going to be really difficult. And I said, I don't think they're as great as you think. I don't think they're as closable. I think they're going to be a bit of a nightmare. I would rather us go back to this particular buyer because the agent is much easier to deal with. The buyer seems to love the property more. I think we're going to have less issues. And people, they said, you want me to leave 25,000 on the table? I said, I don't think you're leaving 25,000 on the table.
Right.
I think, but you can't, I can't totally, justify that, but my experience tells me that we're going to leave a lot more if we take this higher offer.
We have had, we have, going back to ability to close trumps price. So we have had some of these, what we like to call bottom feeders, come out to our world today. These guys are going to tell you and show you anything and everything they can to tie you up and get you under contract.
Right.
And a lot of these guys, 10-figure numbers, bank accounts that have millions and millions of dollars in them. Here's my bank account. This is who I am. I've got the money. I could close it. Yes, I know you are. Yes, you can. We negotiate, and I use in air quotes, a purchase price. And the negotiations don't start until either the day before or the day of the contingencies are set to expire, then the negotiating starts. So, that again is one of those things where you kind of tell your clients, just like you were saying with this guy, I know this buyer, I know this, this broker, this is what their MO is, this is what we're going to get, watch out. We have that too. And
right.
I am now going under contract for a third time with a
Ouch.
group. Yep, because you didn't want to kind of go down that road. We told you, beware, seller, beware. And no, these guys are, they're giving us the number that we want. No, they're not. And some of these corporations are not going to listen to you. They're going to do what they want. And, they've got their attorneys out there that really know what they're doing. Okay. Twice. And now we're going to go into it for a third time. Their real estate people are kind of getting sick and tired of this. And it's one of those where it's like, I told you so. Now, if you just let me do it, get out of the way and let me do it. Just let me do it.
Right. But a lot of people don't want to do it. And you know what's interesting, George, is that there's a lot of very intelligent people that don't want to let you do your job. And when you have a client who's actually listening to you and taking your advice and leaning on you, it is such a great feeling because you're able to move so much more freely and make so much more happen and save them so much more money by having them not get in the way of the deal. Because I want to hear what the buyer or the seller says, absolutely, but then I want them to rely and trust my professional opinion. Right. And when they don't, oh God, that's painful.
Right. Yeah. No. And that I know exactly what you're talking about. And doesn't that feel good? And look, I don't think, at least for both of us, I mean, again, you're 20 plus years in the business. There's a reason why you're still 20 years in the business, right? People trust you, know, like, trust, love, right? Listen, do your job, and as a professional, and people know that. I don't think that any of us would go through that world and say, I'm going to take advantage of someone. It's not worth it. It's not. There isn't a commission dollar that's worth doing the bad thing, doing the wrong thing.
I totally agree. You know what I tell people too? I say I would rather lose you with the truth than keep you with a lie.
Amen.
And so, because to me, it's about it's about the golden rule. Do unto others as you would want them to do to you. And when I go to bed at night, I want my kids to look at me and go, Dad's a stand-up guy. Dad did the right thing. Dad went away from all this money by having them not given the way of the deal. Because I want to hear what the buyer or the seller says, absolutely, but then I want them to rely and trust my professional opinion. And when I go to bed at night, I want my kids to look at me and go, Dad's a stand-up guy. Dad's a stand-up guy. Dad did the right thing. Dad walked away from all this money because it was the right thing to do. Dad advised them not to sell because of this. Dad, that's what I want them to hear. Knowing that business karma, I mean, to me, it's like it's almost like a business spirituality, There's
Yep.
something that happens when you do the right thing that, in essence, you're giving away money temporarily, but it's honored and it comes back to you.
And it's funny you say that in some of those, and some of it, these, in my world can be so wild. And this was just at the end of the run up, right? This is now a couple of years ago. Prices were as high as they ever were in the valley. I mean, they were silly. And I
Hmm.
had one property owner who had a portfolio of properties to sell. They were all individual properties. He could have sold them one off and made what now I could look back and say $10 million more. If you sold these
Hmm.
one at a time, you're going to make $10 million more. Nope, George, I don't want to do that. There, there's too many things going on, too many things going on in my life. I don't want to sell them for seven individual escrows. It's just
Uh-huh.
not worth my stress.
For 10 million, I would have just
Well,
handed it off to you, step back, and tell me where to sign.
Well, yeah, but there, what he got was still pretty good. I mean, if 10, yes, he did. But then you look at it and go, look, I'm going to split it with this family member. I'm going to split it with Uncle Sam. At the end of the day, that 10 million bucks really to him might have been $2 million. Well, look, that's a lot of money for some people, but for some people it's not. It's
Like for this
rounding
guy.
like for this guy. Believe me, and are you serious? You're going to walk away from this? But to get to that point was I kept harping on him, going, listen, I will deal with this. I will deal with these seven individual
Sure.
deals. I will do it. Please let me do this. We're walking away from a lot of money. And I kept going, Scott. I kept pushing on him so hard that he got mad at me, and he
Oh
started
no.
yelling at me. Oh yeah, no, he just blew up. Stop doing this. Why do you keep saying it? You keep bringing this up, and you keep doing this. And I hold up. I said, hold on a second. And again, I put my hand up, and he's like, what? I want you to remember what's happening right now. And I want you to recall that you got mad at me because I told you you could make more money and you're not electing to do so. So if any time in your history you go back and you say, what, I could have walked away, I want you to remember this second right now.
Uh-huh.
I saw him kind of sit back and just go, oh, okay, you're right. Good point. Point well taken. I appreciate you saying that to me, but I'm still going to walk away with I don't want to
Right.
do it.
You know
But
what's interesting?
I
Um,
slept good that night.
yeah. What's interesting is, and it's really tough because I do what you do as well, is I look at it and I'm going like, they're saying, I don't want to do this or don't want to do this. Like there was one deal where there's a seller financing piece and I knew the person who had done it and they gave top dollar, way more than they should have because they had a seller financing piece. They put down 30% and then they had a 5-year note and they paid it off in 2 years. So I tell the client, I said, you should do this person will buy at full price, which is half a million more than you probably should be getting it for XYZ reason. And then this is how it's going to be structured. I've worked with him before. We'll have the note drawn up. We'll have an agreement drawn up with someone who understands, like Joe Kober can draw it up. And this person said that's effing stupid. And I went, so $500,000 reduction. It didn't look so stupid, but it was like, I've been here before. I understand your concern. You're protected by the property. People loan on these kinds and do these kinds of deals hoping the person will back out
Right.
because then they've got several $100,000 and they still have the
And get the
asset.
property back. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
yeah. So, but at some point though, you gotta. I look at it. And I'm going. At some point, I'm going. Gosh, okay. I'm trying to do right by someone, but at some point, I just got to go. I've told you what I feel, my
Right.
professional opinion, and I'm a good horse to bet on because I win a lot. But you don't. You're electing not to do this, so I'm going to step back. But I just want you to know, I'm going. The reason I'm so passionate about this is because I want to kick ass for you. I want to bring you every dollar. And so, if it's not the right fit to do it this way, that's cool. I just want you to know that I
Right.
respectfully disagree. But it's so hard to step back knowing that you know what you're doing and you could make them so much more money.
Yeah. I sold a property a month ago which is that this is the first time this has ever happened, less than I sold it to these guys 10 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yep, yep. And when it was kind of cresting and coming down, you're kind of again going, what? No, please don't do this. Please don't do this. But
Uh-huh.
he's got, what I like to say, three brothers bought a building, were running their business. Three brothers go through a business divorce, and two of the three brothers go through a personal divorce. So
Oh,
it was
God.
the perfect storm of absolute disaster.
That's a lot of
And
divorce.
oh my goodness.
Oh, my gosh.
And me, I look at these guys, and when I first met them now 12 years ago, going back to why are you still making deals? Because here they, 12 years ago, and now these guys are going through these problems. I got to sell this property, and they call me, and I turned out to be the, I don't know what the right word would be, but the facilitator between three brothers that could not stand each other and could not speak to each other for years. A couple of them didn't talk for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I was the between these guys. I had trust,
Uh-huh.
between all of them, although, they were all kind of pointing their fingers at everyone. Well, George, I'm not going to do that. I don't do that. I'm going to tell all of them, as I said, I'm going to tell you guys all the same story. I don't
Right.
care if you don't like it. This is the story. It's the
Right.
same. Depose me all you want. Will never change. So they followed the deal down. We had an offer at one point for $3.7 million to sell this property, and I was yelling at the top of the rooftops, "It will never get higher than this. Take this number. Take this number. Take this number." And by the time we actually sold the building, we sold the building for $2,008,000, which was 50 grand less than what they bought it for 10 years prior. And it sucked, but it had to happen. It had to
Right.
go down that way. Everybody in the whole divorce system took it all the way down to the last inch, to where
Uh-huh.
they were about to lose everything.
Wow.
Yep.
It's unbelievable
Yep.
that happens, but unfortunately, what's that stuff happens and it's really upsetting. But I always try to, and I know you're the kind of guy that does this too. Just try to rely and think about all the times that people did listen and you were able to help them and they were so
Right.
appreciative, and I really try to focus on that because there's a lot of those, but these other ones become kind of a cancer, because you're doing
Well,
everything you
right.
can and you're being honest
Oh,
and you're
yeah.
working hard.
Well, guess what? At the end of the day, I did get a thank you from all three of them
Ah,
individually, that we did get it done, because their alternative of losing it in foreclosure would have been even worse.
right.
But during that, and this is the first time that this has ever happened, do you know that the escrow company, can cancel a deal, or they can elect to no longer be
We're
an
done with
escrow?
you.
Yep.
Whoa.
And the three of them were fighting, and we're going to sue, and we're going to bring attorneys, and all of them were writing into escrow, if you don't do this, we're going to sue, and blah blah blah. And it's what kind of shaped everybody up. Escrow goes, guess what? We're out. And I'm reading this email going, hold on a minute, they're
Can
canceling
they?
escrow? Like, can they do
I
that?
didn't know that.
Oh yes, they can. So in their
Uh-huh.
in their
Oh my
escrow
gosh.
boilerplate, they can elect to cancel. And so again, going back to 20 years relationship, whether it be with the escrow company or the title company, it's like, guys, please don't walk away from this deal. Let me put this back together. And so the escrow company is very, like, they had it. No, I don't, and I kind of worked
It's
on
not
it.
worth it to them.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't worth it to him. But it was almost it wasn't the best thing that happened, but it was the best thing that happened, because it just kind of slapped everyone silly, and they all
Right.
stopped, and they all kind of came together, and we got this thing done. And
Uh-huh.
you know, real estate hell. What's happening today in the industrial world are those sad story transactions. And the deals they were
Right.
making are making because of the 10 years, 11 years prior, I had sold these guys this building, and their business has imploded, and it needs to get sold. And it got sold at a fire sale price. And we all acknowledge that, but it had to
Right.
happen that way.
But that was the number. That was what the market would bear.
That's it. Oh yeah, and I'll tell you, another saying that we have today is like catching a knife. The knife is fallen. You're gonna grab it. I don't know how far you want to take it from our advice where it's gonna hurt, but if you wait all the way to the end, it's gonna hurt because that at that point it's picking up speed and you're gonna grab that thing and
you're gonna get cut. How deep is the cut gonna be?
And
you know what I mean?
And that's it. So that where are we making deals? That's how we're making deals.
Wow.
Yeah. Not.
You know what, George?
Yeah.
You're good at this.
You think?
You're good at this because these are great stories, and you're just speaking the truth. You're being authentic, and there's it was really good. You should do more of this, but do it tied into what you do, being authentically you in the industrial market. There's got to be a way of doing that because I think it'd be great. Hold on one second though. Yeah. By the way, thanks for coming. Yeah. Appreciate it.